Alongside a brand new book, The Big Daka, the protagonist of it, if you can call him that, Ufthak Blackhawk, is also hitting the scene with an incredible new model, and one which was actually part of an old rumour engine picture because he is sporting the shock rifle that we normally see on the Shock Jump Dragster. He is of course getting some new rules to go along with this model, and whilst they are legends only, so you won't be able to use this in any official tournaments, they can of course still be fully used in any friendly or local games with your friends. So I know a lot of people may not like this, but there is, in my opinion, always the chance he will be in the new Orc Codex when that comes out in the next couple of months. But at the moment, he is legends only. It would be a shame if he didn't get folded into the Codex, I think, but at the moment you can't use him in official tournaments. But at least for someone like me who mainly just plays with friends or in local groups, you should be able to use him as long as the people you play with aren't like really competitive. But in any case, I thought in celebration of this release, we would take a look at his rules and weigh up just how good this brilliant new Orc model is. Ufthak comes in at 70 points, so he is a tiny bit pricier than the regular standard war boss who sits at 65 points, and whilst he is similar in many ways, he also has a few notable differences that I think potentially make him worth paying that extra 5 points for. In terms of his overall stat line, he has the usual fairly tanky war boss profile. He's toughness 5, he has 6 wounds, he's got a 4-up armor save and a 5-up invulnerable, and he can join a unit of knobs or BOYZ for that extra bodyguard protection. So he can be reasonably durable, at least for an orc. On the weapons front, things change up quite a bit though, thanks to his unique war gear. Unlike the regular power claw and combi weapon that a regular war boss has, he has the vastly improved shock rifle, which grants him only 1 shot, but it is strength 8, -2 AP, d6 +1 damage, and also has devastating wounds and precision. So he can do quite a bit of damage to enemy units and also be a big threat to enemy characters. It does also come with hazardous, which is a risk for him with his 6 wounds, but still I think it is 100% an improvement over the combi weapon. On top of that, in a very un-orky way, he also hits on 4s rather than 5s, so he is much more accurate than your regular orc, and you can actually expect his gun to genuinely do some damage every now and then. He's still not brilliant at shooting by any means, but he can reasonably kill off marines and terminators with it, and even threaten enemy leaders thanks to that precision. In melee, of course, is where orcs really come into their own, and Ufthak is no different here. He has extra attacks from his squig, which is named Princess, which is just a couple of extra strength 4 attacks. Nothing really to write home about, but it is just worth remembering them because you can do a few extra wounds or kill a couple of extra squishy, guardsmen if you are going into them. But his main weapon is the Snazzhammer, which is basically a buffed up power claw. He has 4 attacks which hit on 3s, and they are strength 10, -2 AP, 2 damage, but unlike a power claw, they also get devastating wounds. So all by itself, this is a decent little profile for killing marines and lighter vehicles thanks to that strength 10 and 2 damage, but with devastating wounds on top, he can potentially proc much higher damage into your opponent and even put the hurt onto more durable things like 2-up save, 4-up invuln terminators, or if you get the warg off, he can even get to strength 11 with this to help him punch into any more durable toughness 10 vehicles that may cross his path. So for 70 points, I think at least compared to the 65 point war boss, he is worth considering because he is at least decently improved in terms of both melee and shooting thanks to the Snazzhammer and to his shock rifle. Where he really does make more of a difference though in terms of his profile is in his abilities, and I think generally these are actually a little bit better than the Warboss ones, although it is going to be vastly dependent on how you want to play your Orc army and what you want your Warboss and your squads to be doing. Unlike a usual Warboss who grants their unit +1 to hit in melee and also 4 extra attacks in the turn of a war, Ufthak gets to reroll hit and wound rolls against enemy Titanic units. Now this in itself is kind of meh. I wish it was just against vehicles and monsters, then it would actually come up more. But unless you're playing against things like knights a lot, I don't think this ability is actually gonna... You're probably gonna forget you even have it most of the time. But his other ability, Tellyporta Tech, is really good, because what it does is it grants the unit he is with Deep Strike, and that is incredibly strong, because as I said, he can join nobs where he is great, but also he can join orc boys, and orc boys have a rule in their bodyguard section that says if they are joined by a war boss and they are 20 strong, they can also have another leader join the unit too. So you can potentially take 20 boys, Ufthak, and another leader like a Nob with a War Banner or a Pain Boy or a Mech, and deep strike that entire 22 strong unit right up in the enemy's face, which is a really big threatening thing to drop in front of the enemy. It can add a lot of pressure to how they react to it. And on top of that, you also have a stratagem in the Orc Index, Here We Go, which means you can add 2 inches to charge rolls for a unit. So you can drop this huge blob 9 inches away from the enemy and then go for a 7-inch charge, which is actually reasonably reliable, and especially if you have the CP to spend on a reroll if you need it. But moving from a 9-inch charge to a 7 massively improves the chances that you are going to get it off, which means this squad can drop right in front of an enemy and actually reliably, or at least reasonably reliably, make it into combat and just completely mess up your opponent's battle plans. It also opens up the chance for you to use rapid ingress on this squad, so you really can add a lot of mobility and maneuverability to this squad and make your opponent second guess where this huge blob of BOYZ and Ufthak are going to be showing up. For just 5 points more than a war boss, I do personally think that not only his improved weapon stat line makes him a valid option in and of itself, and whilst I think losing the +1 to hit for your unit is admittedly quite a big hit, I won't lie, I love the idea of making him and his squad able to deep strike in near an enemy and potentially shoot for that 7-inch charge right where they are least expecting it. He is definitely, in my opinion, not an auto pick over a regular war boss, because the regular war boss does bring a lot, and if you want your whole army just on the board advancing up together ready to unleash the warg in a certain turn, then maybe you just want to stick with the war boss to give your squads that +1 to hit. But I do think he is good, and if you want to put some intense pressure onto an enemy deployment zone early on in the game, or you know you're going to be up against enemy super heavies or titanic units, I think in those situations he is almost always going to be worth that 5-point upgrade. And then of course the last little thing is that his model is fantastic, so if you just want a cool unique model to build and paint up and add to your army, he is well worth bringing for that reason too. So that is just a quick little look at Ufthak Blackhawk. I love the model. I haven't read the book. I don't really know his lore all that well, but I think he's great. I think he looks great. I think his rules are good because they are very, very strong, but they add a different style of play to certainly a big blob of orc boys. So it's definitely something that you can weigh up and change how you want to play your orc army, depending whether you want to bring a regular war boss or Ufthak, which I really like. I like the options that it gives you. But as always, what do you think of him? Do you like his rules? And do you think you will be adding him in place of a regular war boss in your orc lists? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.